thunderstorms. My, what a beautiful spring day it is. It's pretty chilly for April. But today we're gonna be moving some equipment. We're gonna haul a chopper box back down to our other shed. And we're also gonna bring the straight M back down there as well. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Right there, you're good. If some of you were wondering what we're doing moving around chopper boxes here in the spring, you know, we're nowhere near haying or corn silage. When it comes to the end of the year, we fill a bunch of our wagons up with corn stalks bedding, and we use it throughout the winter and unload them throughout the winter. So that one just got unloaded in the past week, and we brought it back down here and we grabbed another one that's full of corn stalks. So we'd like to get them empty obviously this spring before first crop hay.
Park this thing just anywhere because I'm gonna have to pull it out of the way if it wants to be started.
That one was a little fussy to start.
I don't know. It seems to flood out. There's something.
Normally, M's are pretty easy
They're pretty
to start.
good. They're pretty good starting. See, we use this tractor on the blower. This thing's got a lot of bite. You can't stop it. It's got a lot of power.
Right. This was tuned up. This tractor.
It's might be bored out bigger than original. From what I understand. You can tell it's got more power than the other one once it gets going, but I don't know. Sometimes this fuel nowadays, probably we could maybe put some heat in the tank. Maybe we got water condensation because it sits around. It's a long time before you start using it hard again. So I don't know. We're not going to lose sleep over that.
Yeah, I was just telling them how handy it is having these chopper boxes full of bedding. And that's why we're messing around with chopper boxes and moving them around.
Well, yeah, and then see, like in the winter when it's real icy, I don't like to mess with none of this. This all gets packed in here, but in the middle of November when we're done with crops. And it's kind of, again, not having all your eggs in one basket. So we got bale racks full of straw and corn stalks and hay, and then we move it right where we need it in the spring. We clean that heifer barn out. I can back it right in there. It takes a little time, but we get it in there, unload it right there where the cattle are then. Instead of baling it out, putting it in the shed, then you got to rip the net wrap off. You know, there's a process to everything nowadays, so this works. They're in the shed anyway, they might as well have something on them.
Yeah, we just got done working on this chopper box. We got it greased up, oiled, new tie rod end.
We lengthened up the pole a little bit, but then I was looking at this one compared to the other one. We might, I'm hoping we don't have to put it back, because if we're not, usually you got to run them straight anyway, because the PTO is the same length, but the other one is set a little bit, the running gear set a little bit further forward. That could be the reason why it was set back and out of the hole. Yeah, we oil up all the chains and everything, so then we don't have to necessarily dig them all out and take them over back by the buildings and work on them before haying. So when we cut hay, we just fetched the boxes and they're already checked. Everything was kind of looked over for the first cutting anyway, which is the big cutting. There's enough to do when it's hay time.
But yeah, since we're down here, we're gonna show you guys that that old drill. Yeah, since you know, seeding's right around the corner here. This isn't the main drill.
No, this is what I started with. This was one of my dad's first ones. He had one on steel wheels, I think he had from his dad. And then this drill, my mom's uncle drill came from, and it was almost like new when my dad got it. It's an 8-foot Vin Brent. And I don't know if there's a model number to these things. There's probably a number or a letter or something that they called them. So my dad used this probably since early 70s maybe, and then this must have been built in the, I don't know, maybe the 60s. I don't even know, maybe before then. I like how simple it is. Once we figured out where to set our notches for, we put about 100 pounds to the acre of oats. And the thing is I like about this one, the mice never got in this one. If the lids were shut, they never get in here, so I could put my extra seed. Like if I had a bag of alfalfa left, I could set it down in there and it's safe. My new drill, for whatever reason, they could get up through the flues and they chewed up a bag in there and talk about a mess. Because that was like confetti all mixed with my oats. You couldn't just run it through. I had to take it all out of there. That was crazy. Then on this side, they got a chart. And I don't have an owner's manual for it. Some of you old timers probably know all about this stuff. It's 6-inch spacing, and here it's models B, FB, LL, LZ, PD, and EE drills. 6, 7, and 8-inch spacings probably will tell you everything you need to know. So one day with our new drill, we had some cylinder was leaking, and when the cylinder is leaking, it won't stay the depth you need it to stay. And we had it all filled up, ready to go. That was like a couple years ago. And then it was supposed to rain and everything, so we dug this out. We seeded our hay and our oats, and the crop was just fine. You couldn't tell the difference. So you got your main box, the alfalfa box. Now my dad used to do, I remember him mixing Timothy with the alfalfa, and the Timothy seed is really fine. Almost looks like sugar. He put it in cream cans, and then he mixed it. You put the cover on the can and then rolled it on the ground, you know, to make sure the cover didn't come off. But anyway, so that he'd mix it thoroughly, because that would go through these real nice. That was the one thing, you couldn't really put grass seed in there. Sometimes they'd put the grass seed in with the oats. And depends on your soil conditions, it would plant the grass seed a little bit too deep in some spots. And depends on the year. I've done it both ways. But then I have to be careful. Some of those were like orchard grass, and some of those seeds are a little big. You know, you have to make sure everything's flowing. But so on the front, I can see right here from the tractor seat, you could see if your oats is flowing. You never had to worry about it being plugged because you could see them all. And just at a glance. The new drill, I have to get that back in behind. Almost impossible to get your head in there the right angle so you can see everything right and make sure it's flowing and isn't plugged up. This was a lot easier to use. It's just not no-till. The other one's a no-till drill. And on the other side, so right here, it's mechanical. And you can take this finger nut off, and take this plate off, and then there's 3 different gears in there with numbers on. So you got 2 numbers there, and then you got your tenths, and this thing's accurate. And then here, my mom's uncle was writing on here. As the acre meter went up, he kept adding to it. Yeah, so this maybe is a 56 model, all the way to here, so 65 here, 69. And then there's one dash here with, so my dad must have got this around 1970. I mean, and that's just pencil. So it tells you this drill's never been out in the rain, never. You know, I don't remember really having any serious problems with it. Flat tire maybe a couple different times, so we just put some good car tires on there. 6-inch spacing, and in the no-till drill, that's 7.5-inch spacing. So it isn't quite as consistent. And then we'd always drag our new seeding. We drag before and then after to get everything worked in and covered up nice. And we always had a nice crop far as oats and alfalfa.
Yeah, so that's the nice old little drill. And my dad was telling me last week something like this should last forever and hold its value, you know, to an extent. Especially now in our area with anybody that's hobby farming or even food plot guys. That's a big thing around here.
The thing is, you can pull this with a small tractor.
Yeah.
That's really the big thing of it, and it doesn't take a lot of space up. And as soon as we bought that other drill, I had all kinds of guys that heard I got that other drill. They wanted this one.
Yeah, even corn planters, you know, probably like a decade ago, 4-row corn planters weren't worth anything, but now everybody wants them that has a food plot or a small little hobby farm or something, because yeah, you can pull them with smaller equipment. And
wide row, and I heard a guy that was taking those huge, you know, like 6 or 12 row or whatever, them not good enough for that big guy, that they cut them apart and they make little 2-row units out of them, and they're selling them for a premium.
Yeah, it's kind of like now where the 6-row, the 8-row, and even the 12-row is kind of obsolete for the real big guys. So that's kind of the cheaper.
Well, the big guy don't want something that's all wore out. That could be a nightmare trying to plant like that. You'd putting $1 million crop in and not doing it right. So. Well, yeah, that smaller stuff is getting to be, because when I started here, you could find this kind of stuff on every auction. They were selling for $400 or $500, even $200 to get some really nice stuff. It was everywhere. There was 3-4 auctions in a week within 20-mile radius at this time of the year. Now there's auctions, but they're not good farm auctions like they used to be. They're household and hobby stuff. And
yeah, there's not a whole lot of retirement farm auctions anymore.
No, there's none.
Yeah, so that's a little history there.
We dig out our Great Plains. We'll go through that one, and that's a quite a tool. And that tool too, that'll never lose value neither, because we only have I think it's a 9 feet 9 inches or something, but they call it a 10-foot.
Yeah, but it's not a true 10.
You know, but it depends on how you space your spacers and stuff. You can set it up different ways. You can plant soybeans with that and everything.
Yeah, and it's pretty much the same setup all the way up to the really big ones too. Even cylinders and everything.
Same gang. Yeah, some of the framing, it's just smaller. That's the neat thing about it. And they've been building that same drill for, I don't know, could be going almost 20 years, 15 years maybe 20 on them models.
Yeah, the 3 boxes and then the no-till is probably the best part of that.
Yeah, that was all kind of options, but we'll go through all that.
And here's our corn planter.
It was a consignment auction, $2,200. I mean, you know, and like you said, now it's getting to be almost a hobbyist unit, but I could pull this with that 686. I know I could. And we're in the hills, so we used the 7405. We use 100 horse on it anyway, just because of the weight. I like it. The air planter's so simple. We don't have that much corn to plant. And we got to stay with wide row as long as we're going to be picking corn yet. That's really the trouble with this whole world around us. If we would decide we're going to go narrow row, and we can throw our whole picking operation away completely, then we got to get into, I don't know, grain bins, combine, yeah, harvester silo. You know, it's going to change up everything. The mix and dry grain ain't going to be an option anymore. So it doesn't just start. You know, if you start with the one thing, you kind of end up switching up everything. And this, as long as we can keep all this going, we're going to keep going like this. This is very economical.
If any of you have ever owned a planter like this and have had a high acre one, let us know in the comments what you thought of it. I've been looking at some of the narrow row, the bigger ones, the 6 or the 12-row planters. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about them, especially those high acre machines. And then another spring, or maybe this would be more of a tillage tool, but
this here is an aerator. And we've been investigating into like organic farming, and we never really converted to being organic, but a lot of this was big talk about aerating your pastures and your hay fields. And these spikes on here, they got some, all that is that rotates and it would poke a hole in the ground. Now you can set it at an angle too, so it almost tilts a little bit. The theory is that when it pokes that hole, when it rains, that's supposed to fill up with water and let air down in, like places where it's been packed down. So let's say you used to do it on pasture all the time, and then we had so many of these wet years. I mean, the soil was already fairly loose already. It's a kind of a experimental thing, and this I think is only, I don't know if that's 10 feet. I don't remember what that is. I think it's a 10-foot. They come a lot bigger. Here I cut barrels in half, filled them up full of concrete, put a hook, like a piece of iron. You have to run a chain through it. So one time on a really steep hill, I had this and I'm clipping along and everything's going good. But see that there's some of them fields where there's some sandstones in it. So I'll never put corn there or plant anything there. We'll just make hay off it and graze it. Well, this thing jumped over one of them. It was like a little bedrock sticking out. So the whole thing jumped. And then one of these fell out of here and started rolling down the hill. And down the hill from there, that's where our buildings are. So I just stood there watching this big, huge thing roll, and it missed everything, but it could be quite the deal. You know, now I realize I got to tie these things down. And then I had one time where it fell out, and it was on the upper side of the pole, and it fell between the pole and the tractor, so I couldn't even go. I was on a really steep side hill, and I had to use the bobcat. I had to come up there, the bobcat and the grapple, and get it out of there before I could go. So it's kind of one of them, you know, live and learn type things. No big problem, just I call those situations. You can get out of them without a big crisis, but they're just kind of different.
If you had an aerator and you're looking to add weight, I'd make them square or, yeah, chain them down.
Tie them down in there. Well, they got some square ones, but then you had to buy them. This was easy. We were pouring someplace and we were able to.
Yeah, that's a really DIY is using barrels, but yeah, make sure to secure them. You know, I show them the heat houser a little bit. I've seen a lot of people were, a lot of you guys were interested in it in that one video we had. River is covered in burdock. If any of you have a good tip for getting burdocks out quick and easy, let me know.
The mice did some little playing around with it. You'd almost have to take it off all the steel and fold it up and put it in a cupboard to prevent that from happening. But it was folded up, hanging in the shed, and it's still in there. I like this thing. It only takes a few minutes to put on. If you were going to run around like between a couple farms or something, I remember hauling manure with this where the way I would be dressed working around the buildings and in the barn was enough to go out in the field with a load of manure and come back. Otherwise, you'd have to put your heavy stuff on, and whether you practically freeze yourself. I mean, even your hands and stuff, you get all the heat coming off the motor. It really makes a difference in this. But this will fit an M. This will fit smaller ones too. And then there's some adjustments, like here where the bull wheel is, that's for a smaller tractor too. And then I think there was 2 sets of snaps my first one had for a smaller tractor and that. And there's springs to kind of keep everything tight. That's all my dad ever had on for winter.
Yeah, we're gonna hook up that full chopper box and take it back to the yard.
Take that to the yard so we got bedding for next week.
Mm-hmm. Keep coming. All right, it's good. All right, so we got some equipment moved around, and here's our fanning mill.
That's probably the oldest piece of machinery we own.
Yeah, but we'll have a video coming out soon here of us cleaning oats and making this year's seed. So you guys stay tuned for that. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. It was nice to get some of that equipment moved, and hopefully you guys found some of those pieces of equipment interesting. Thank you all for your nice comments. We'll see you guys next time. Make sure to check out our other videos.
Hey, is that a long run? Huh? You been running, trying to keep up them tractors and that young dog? It's a lot of dog to run.